Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about grand strategy.
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is a big one. It's a juicy one. And luckily we have joining us someone who knows a lot about this,
I don't know about a lot, but I'm excited to talk about it.
at least more than me.
Yeah,
So you're going to be our guide today.
happy to.
Excellent. So grand strategy. We're going to be looking at John Lewis Gaddis's, he's a historian, on grand strategy.
Yeah, a fantastic book. Really interesting. He's a great writer, too. Very engaging.
And that's what I kind of wanted to get into a little bit is some of the comparisons that he makes. Have you had a chance to read this one?
I have, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when I picked it up, I was like, what is this? It's about grand strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to be talking about, emperors and,
Yeah.
like military figures and stuff.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about Xerxes. Okay. Persian emperor. Like, I know enough about history to be dangerous, but
A little bit, yeah.
it's like, okay, grandiose. I get it. Big armies.
Right.
Wants to take over the world, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he starts talking about this psychologist, Philip Tetlock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on here?
And at first you think, what is the connection? Like, why are these two juxtaposed together in this book about grand strategy?
Yeah, is this a history book or a psychology book? What's happening?
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, that's what's so great about Gaddis, is that he makes these really interesting connections between people that you wouldn't expect, historical figures, and time periods even, and concepts. And it really gets you thinking, because there are these really interesting through lines.
Yeah, because Tetlock is all about this idea of, like, can experts,
Predict the future, right?
Yeah, can they predict the future? Are they good at it?
Yeah.
And it turns out not so much, right?
Yeah, yeah. He kind of found that, experts are about as good at predicting the future as, a coin flip a lot of times.
Right, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the people we trust to, tell us where things are going. And...
Exactly, yeah. The so-called experts that we listen to, right?
Right.
They don't necessarily have a handle on it. But the interesting thing about Tetlock was, well, one of the interesting things was this idea of foxes and hedgehogs. Did you want to get into that?
Well, yeah, that was what I was thinking. Like, where does that fit in? Because you have...
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
You have these, these great minds in theory that are supposed to be able to see into the future a little bit.
Right.
And then he starts talking about essentially different personality types or different, like, I don't want to call them, I don't even know. Are they thinking styles? What would you call them?
Yeah. I think thinking styles works, Some people call them cognitive styles. But yeah, like, how do you approach a problem?
Right.
How do you think about things?
Right.
Yeah.
And so he breaks them down into these two categories, which I love because, you can't get more opposite than a fox and a hedgehog.
Right.
So just in case somebody's never seen a hedgehog, which is entirely possible.
I mean, some people might not have, yeah.
Little spiky creatures that basically their main defense is to roll up in a ball.
Right.
And they're prickly. You're not going to get them. You're not going to win that battle.
You're going to pet them, that's for sure.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Don't try it at home. Whereas a fox is very, what would you say?
I would say adaptable, They're cunning, they're smart, they can kind of weave in and out of different situations.
Right, so like very,
Agile.
agile, yeah.
Yeah.
Can make quick decisions. And
Yeah, they're very flexible.
so how does that apply to, and, let's bring back our friend Xerxes here.
Yeah.
Where does he fall on this spectrum? Because he's got to be one or the other.
Right. He does. Well, I mean, the thing about these cognitive styles or thinking styles is it's not always black and white, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the extremes, Xerxes, he was all about, this kind of singular vision of what he wanted. And he had this unshakable belief in his own, his own rightness. Like, he was going to conquer Greece, and that was it.
And that was it.
And it was almost like he couldn't even fathom that there would be any other way.
He was like, why would there be? I'm Xerxes.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Like, why are you even questioning this?
Yeah.
It's going to work because I'm me.
And, to be fair, he did have at his disposal one of the largest armies the world had ever seen.
Right. That wasn't even enough.
But it wasn't enough. And he kind of got tripped up by the details.
Yeah.
Right? The logistics of moving that many men, the fact that the Greeks were, actually pretty decent at this whole fighting thing.
They weren't bad, no.
Especially on their home turf.
And they might have had a slightly different, way of seeing the world.
I-
They were not as, how would you say?
They were a little bit more adaptable. Right?
Yeah, they were a little bit more maybe.
They were maybe a little more foxy.
Yeah.
They were willing to, use the terrain to their advantage. They were willing to use kind of unconventional tactics.
Right.
Whereas Xerxes was all about, we've got the big thing. We're just going to, steamroll you.
It's just going to work, yeah. We're going to use brute force, and it'll be fine. So, I mean, and then bringing it back around to us, not that any of us are planning to invade Greece anytime soon.
Not that I know of, no.
But, what's the takeaway? Like, is it better to be, a fox or a hedgehog? Should we all be trying to, have our foxy hats on all the time?
That's a great question. And I think, it's not about saying one is better than the other inherently.
Right.
Right. It's about understanding which mode of thinking might be more helpful in a given situation.
Okay.
So there are times when that hedgehog certainty, that real drive, that focus is exactly what's needed. If you're an entrepreneur and you've got this great idea, you really need that kind of, belief in yourself, right? You need to be able to weather the storms and keep going even when people doubt you.
Yeah, you have to have that singular vision in order
For
to
an extent, yeah.
bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
But then there are other times where that fox-like adaptability, that ability to pivot, to take in new information, to kind of, adjust your course,
If you're nimble,
can really save the day.
Yeah.
It's about knowing, I think, your own strengths and weaknesses as a thinker.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you know that you tend to be, I don't want to say married to your ideas,
Right.
but you can get really, focused on that one thing.
Yeah, that's your hammer and everything's a nail, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to, bring a little bit more of that fox-like thinking into your life, or vice versa, right? If you're somebody who tends to be very scattered.
Yeah, flitting from one thing to the next.
Maybe you need to, put on those hedgehog blinders for a little bit and just focus.
And see something through,
And see something through, yeah.
And the thing is, most of us probably do a little bit of both, right? It's not like we're one or the other all the time. But it's about recognizing, like you said, your own tendencies.
Right.
And when you might need to kind of, adjust.
Yeah. So how do we actually apply this? Because I think that's the thing that I really took away from Gaddis, is that it's not just some, this is how history works.
Yeah, no, and he really brings it into the present, right? He connects it to
He does.
modern day, and he really makes you think about, okay, well, how can I use this? How is this relevant to me?
Yeah, how can I be a better thinker because of this?
Yeah.
Right? So give me an example. How would you apply this fox hedgehog thinking in your own life?
Sure. Well, one example might be, and this is something I think a lot of us can relate to, just in our everyday work, right? Say you're planning a big project, right?
Yeah.
Are you approaching it with this kind of, hedgehog certainty where it's like, this is the plan.
This is how it's going to go.
We're sticking to it no matter what.
Right.
And, it could be that you've missed some crucial information. You haven't really gotten feedback.
Yeah.
You haven't really been open to other possibilities.
Or even just things change.
Things change, right? That's the thing. You can't predict everything.
No, and things are always changing.
Yeah.
Right. So
you have to have that adaptability. So being able to look at it with a little bit of a foxy mindset and say, okay, what information am I missing? What are the potential pitfalls here that I need to be aware of? How can I be flexible in my thinking and in my planning so that if something does come up, I can adjust.
Right.
Because otherwise you can get really stuck. You can get really bogged down.
And then, your project fails, your business fails,
Your relationship fails.
the relationship fails,
Right.
because you weren't willing to kind of see it from those multiple perspectives.
Exactly.
And I think that's where
Yeah.
it starts to get really interesting. But he doesn't just stop there, does he? With the foxes and the hedgehogs.
No, he doesn't. He's got a lot more for us. He's got a lot more historical figures to throw at us and,
He does.
Connect the dots.
And really kind of bring it to life. Because I think that's the other thing that's so brilliant about this book, is that he's not just talking about this stuff in the abstract. He's using these real-world examples.
Yeah.
And they're juicy.
Yeah, they really are. He makes history come alive.
He does.
It's not just names and dates.
No.
It's about real people making real decisions and the consequences of those decisions and, what we can learn from them.
Okay. Well, speaking of real people making real decisions, how about we take a trip to ancient Athens?
Okay, I'm game.
Because he starts talking
I
about...
always love a good Greek story.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So he starts talking about Athens, and he's not talking about, the great battles, although they had plenty of those.
They did, yeah.
He starts talking about their walls.
Yeah, their walls. And their walls were really interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, a wall.
And this is where you think, okay, walls, how is that grand strategy?
It doesn't sound very grand.
It doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
It's very, very hedgehog, right? Like, we're just going to hunker down.
Right.
And if you're outside, you're outside. Too bad.
We're safe in here, and that's all we care about.
Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just any wall, was it?
It wasn't. It was the long walls, right?
The long wall.
And this was this massive, I mean, imagine a wall that's, miles long, connecting their city.
Right, connecting Athens to Piraeus.
To their port, Piraeus, yeah.
So they were landlocked, essentially.
They were protected, yeah.
By this massive wall, but they had access to the sea.
Exactly. And that was the key, right? Because Athens was a naval power.
Right. They were all about their ships, their trade. Right.
So they were already thinking ahead. I mean, they knew.
Right. They had to be. Their whole livelihood depended on it.
Exactly.
So these walls weren't just about keeping people out. They were about ensuring that their supply lines, their trade routes, remained open.
So it was economic.
Yeah.
It was, all of these different...
Yeah, it was multidimensional.
Yeah, it was like they were playing 3D chess with geography and economics and like all of it.
Absolutely, yeah. They were thinking strategically and they were thinking long term.
Right.
This wasn't just a quick fix.
No, these walls took years to build, right?
Yeah. A huge investment of time and resources, but they knew it was essential for their survival. So this is where, we were talking about foxes and hedgehogs, and maybe they were being a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right. Because on one hand, they're building these massive walls, which does seem very hedgehog-like. Like, we're going to protect ourselves.
Right, like hunker down.
Yeah, no one can get us.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, by doing that, they're ensuring that they can be more adaptable, more flexible, more, foxy in terms of how they interact with the rest of the world.
Exactly. They're securing their freedom of movement, essentially. So even though they're building this very static, defensive structure, it's enabling them to be more dynamic in other areas.
Right. It's like the opposite of what you would think.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive in a way, right?
Because usually walls you think are restrictive.
Yeah, limitations. But in this case, it was actually the opposite.
It was freeing them.
It was freeing them to be who they needed to be.
Right. Yeah. Which I think is just, it's a great example of how sometimes the obvious solution isn't the best one.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you have to think a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, a few steps ahead.
About what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then figure out, what's the best way to get there.
And I think that's a great segue into this idea of tethering that Gaddis talks about.
Oh, yes.
Right, because, the Athenians, they were tethered to this idea of maritime power, right? That was their core principle, you might say.
Right.
And everything they did, including building these walls, was ultimately in service to that larger goal. Right. So they had that guiding principle, that North Star, that helped them make these difficult decisions.
Right. And even if it didn't make sense to everybody else.
Right. Exactly.
Because people are like, why are we spending all this money on this wall? We could be, building statues of, Pericles or something.
Exactly. Yeah. There were probably people saying that at the time.
But they knew that it was the key to their future success.
Long-term survival.
Yeah, long-term survival.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of tethering because it's something that I think we can all apply in our own lives, whether we're, leading a nation or just trying to figure out, what to do with our careers or our relationships.
Absolutely, yeah. Having that, those core values, those non-negotiables. What is it that you won't compromise on? What are those principles that guide your decisions?
And if you can connect all of your actions, all of your decisions back to that.
Right. It gives you clarity.
It does, yeah.
It gives you a framework for making those tough choices.
Right.
Because you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And it makes it easier to, I think, stay the course when things get tough.
Exactly, yeah. You have that anchor.
All right, so we've gone from ancient Greece to, our own lives. Where to next? Who else does Gaddis want us to meet on this journey through grand strategy?
Well, he introduces us to, I wouldn't say he introduces us. He's quite a famous figure, but he brings in Niccolo Machiavelli.
Ooh, Machiavelli. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going from ancient Greece to Renaissance Italy.
Okay, so buckle up, everybody.
It's going to be a wild ride.
This is where things get real. All right, so Machiavelli. We could do a whole deep dive just on Machiavelli.
Oh, absolutely.
But for those who maybe haven't, brushed up on their Renaissance history lately.
Right, a little rusty.
Give us the quick and dirty. Who is this guy, and why is he relevant to a conversation about grand strategy?
Sure. So Machiavelli, he was a writer, a philosopher, a politician, some might say even a bit of a scoundrel in Renaissance Italy, and he's most famous for writing this book called The Prince.
For the prince, yeah.
And it's basically, I mean, some people call it, kind of the evil handbook for rulers and
Right, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like how to get what you want when morals don't matter.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what he's most known for, is this idea that, sometimes you have to be ruthless to survive. Sometimes you have to make tough choices, even if they're not, ethically sound.
Right, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there.
Yeah.
And, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, so he's got this kind of, I don't know, this dark, I don't know if you'd call it a dark side, but this kind of ruthless pragmatism.
Realism, yeah.
Realism, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I think, it's easy to, I think, in our modern world, be like, oh, Machiavelli, he's so cynical,
No. Yeah, we don't want to be like that.
But I think Gaddis does a really good job of, kind of putting him in context.
He does, yeah.
And saying, look, this guy was living in a time
Right, intense upheaval, yeah.
where it really was,
Yeah, I mean, Italy at that time, it was incredibly divided.
Yeah.
Constant warfare between city-states, shifting alliances, betrayal was commonplace. I mean, it was a very, very different world.
Right. So it's not like he was just, this
Right, he wasn't just making it up.
evil genius sitting in a tower somewhere, twirling his mustache.
Yeah, he was writing from experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was trying to, make sense of a very chaotic
Right.
and dangerous world. So
And provide some guidance, maybe, for how to navigate it.
right. And so how do we take Machiavelli's, and again, we could do a whole, semester just on the prince.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
But how do we take his ideas and apply them to, grand strategy today? Because are you saying that, we should all just be ruthless and kind of backstab our way to the top?
No, I don't think that's what Gaddis is advocating for at all.
Okay.
But I do think he wants us to understand that the world is the complex place,
Right.
and that sometimes, there are no easy answers. And sometimes you have to make difficult choices, and those choices might have, unintended consequences. They might not be popular.
Right. You might have to, make a decision that in the short term
Yeah.
is going to be painful.
Right.
But in the long term is what's best for, the greater good.
Exactly.
Right. Or for the
The mission, yeah.
the mission, yes, the bigger vision.
And I think Machiavelli really forces us to confront that, that reality that leadership isn't always pretty.
Right. It's not always,
It's not all about, being nice and doing the popular thing. Sometimes it's about doing the hard thing.
and doing what's necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's not
fun.
Yeah, even if it doesn't make you,
Win any popularity contest.
win any popularity contest. So, yeah, Machiavelli, love him or hate him,
Right.
he definitely makes us think
He does.
about what it really means to be a leader.
Absolutely.
All right, so
And what the costs of leadership might be.
and the costs, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've gone from ancient Greece to Renaissance Italy. Where are we going next?
Well, Gaddis doesn't let us stay in one place for too long.
He doesn't, does he?
So we're going to hop over to England,
Okay.
and we're going to meet a queen who faced, maybe even more challenges than some of the figures we've talked about so far. Queen Elizabeth I.
Ah, Queen Elizabeth. Now, are we talking about like Elizabeth I, Elizabeth II?
Elizabeth XV, yeah. We're going way back.
Okay, all right. So first Elizabeth.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So she's a tough one.
Yeah.
Right. Like she had to deal with a lot. I mean, just off the top of my head, religious turmoil.
Right, the Reformation. England
Renaissance,
breaking
right.
from the Catholic Church. I mean, huge, huge changes.
Yeah, I mean, and she's not just, leading a country.
Right, it's a very different time.
She's basically like the head of the church.
Yeah, the supreme governor of the Church of England. So she's dealing with all of that. People are getting literally burned at the stake over these religious differences.
Right. And on top of that, England's not exactly a superpower at this point in its history.
No. They're kind of, the underdog, you might say.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've got this, this superpower on their doorstep, Spain.
Right, with a giant navy.
With a massive navy.
And a lot of, ambitions of its own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Spain at this time, they're the ones with the global empire. They've got the gold. They've got the conquistadors. They're a force to be reckoned with.
And England's just this, little island.
Damp little island off the coast of Europe.
Yeah, trying to figure out its place in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So talk about being thrown into the deep end.
Yeah. Trial by fire.
Talk about needing some grand strategy, right?
Exactly.
So how did she manage? What was her secret?
Well, one thing that Gaddis emphasizes is her ability to play the long game.
The long game.
Yeah. And that's something that, I think is so important in grand strategy, is recognizing that sometimes, you can't just go in guns blazing.
Right.
Sometimes you have to be patient, you have to be strategic, you have to pick your battles.
Okay, I like it. I like where this is going. Give me an example. How did she do that?
Okay. So let's talk about the Spanish Armada.
Okay, the big one.
The big one, right.
The one where they try to invade, right?
Yeah. 1588, Spain sends this massive fleet of warships.
To basically take over England.
Conquer England, yeah.
Right, okay. And Elizabeth being, I'm assuming a strategic mastermind.
Yeah, she's no slouch, that's for sure.
What does she do?
Well, she doesn't just, rush in head first, right?
Right.
She knows that, head to head, her navy is outmatched.
Right.
So she chooses a strategy of delay and disruption.
Okay.
So she uses England's smaller, faster ships to harass the Spanish fleet.
Okay, so she's being the fox.
She's being the fox, exactly, yeah. She's using her cunning, her agility.
She's not trying to fight them,
No, not head on. Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So,
They're kind of, nipping at their heels. They're disrupting their formations. They're just wearing them down, basically.
smart. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's playing the long game. She's being the fox. What else is she doing? Because it can't just be about the Navy, right?
No, it's not just about the ships. She understands that power is about more than just military might.
Okay.
It's about perception. It's about symbolism. It's about the stories that people tell.
She was a master of PR.
She was a master of her own image, and she cultivated this image very carefully, this image of the Virgin Queen, this, strong, independent.
Right, untouchable.
Untouchable, right. Devoted to her people, a symbol of strength and stability in a time of immense upheaval.
Right. And so by doing that, she's not just winning battles at sea.
Right.
She's winning the hearts and minds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of her people.
But also, think about it. The other monarchs of Europe are looking at her.
Naked. Yeah.
And they're thinking, okay, well, Spain might have all the gold, but Elizabeth, she's got something else going on.
Right. There's a reason why she stayed in power.
For sure. And she was shrewd. She was smart about how she used those advantages.
So it's strategic, yeah.
To kind of outmaneuver people who are, on paper, much more powerful than she was.
Right. And Gaddis uses her example to talk about this idea, too, of of balancing different priorities.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just, okay, we need to deal with Spain.
Right.
It was like, no, we have this whole religious thing going on.
Right, which is a powder keg.
Right.
It could blow at any moment.
And she's got, advisors in her ear saying we should just,
Yeah, just pick a side.
pick a side and go all in.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah, not so fast.
not so fast. Yeah.
I think I'll just kind of, play this one a little bit more carefully. Yeah, and, Gaddis talks about how she was a master of kind of triangulation, right?
Okay.
Of playing different factions off against each other so that she could, maintain her own power and keep England, on an even keel.
Okay. I like it. Triangulation. I'm adding that to my leadership toolkit.
That's a good one.
Mental note, triangulation.
Yeah, maybe with a little asterisk next to it, use carefully.
Right. Proceed with caution.
Yeah.
Right. Because too much triangulation and then nobody trusts you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So it's all about that balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finding that sweet spot. And one thing that's really interesting about Elizabeth, too, is that she understood the importance of symbolism and image.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She cultivated this image, like we were saying, of the Virgin Queen.
Right.
This kind of, untouchable, almost divine figure.
Right.
And it's not that she was actually,
she was probably a normal person underneath all of that.
Right. But she knew that the monarchy, it's about more than just, one person.
Right. It's about what they represent.
It's about the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she embodied that idea brilliantly.
It's like she was branding herself centuries before branding was a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And she understood the power of those symbols.
Okay, so Elizabeth, master strategist, master of PR. What else have we got?
Well, Gaddis doesn't let us, rest on our laurels for too long.
He does not.
He takes us from, the court of Queen Elizabeth to the battlefields of the American Civil War.
Okay.
And we meet a figure who, I think a lot of people would agree is one of the greatest presidents in American history, Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, so this is where it gets really, really real, right?
It does.
Because we're talking about, a nation that is literally tearing itself apart.
Yeah, yeah.
And Lincoln is in this impossible position.
Yeah, unthinkable pressure, really, when you think about it.
How do you even begin to process that level of responsibility?
Right.
Where do you even start when the stakes are that high?
Yeah, when you think about it, he's got, the fate of the Union literally in his hands. And, he's got to figure out how to navigate this incredibly complex situation where, there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
And one wrong move could lead to, further bloodshed, further division.
Right. It could be the end.
Yeah, it could be the end of the country as they knew it.
So what does he do?
Well, one thing that Gaddis highlights is Lincoln's ability to operate on multiple levels at once.
Okay.
So, he's obviously dealing with the day-to-day realities of the war.
Right. Like, how do we keep the army supplied?
Right. How do we keep the armies in the field? How do we, make sure that the North has the resources it needs to fight this war?
Right.
But he never loses sight of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
right? He's always got that long-term vision in mind.
And what is that long-term vision?
Well, obviously preserving the Union.
Right.
That's paramount.
Keeping the country together.
But also, addressing the issue of slavery.
Okay, yeah. So he's got these two kind of tracks that he's trying to...
Right, and they're intertwined, but they're also distinct, right? And he has to figure out how to balance those two things.
Wow.
Because, he knows that if he pushes too hard on the slavery issue too early...
Right, he might alienate people.
He could alienate people in the North. He could drive more people to the Confederacy.
Right, and that's all over.
Yeah, so he's got to be very, very careful about how he handles this.
So he's playing 4D chess over here.
Right, exactly.
He's got all these different things that he's juggling at the same time.
And one of the things that Gaddis points out is that Lincoln was a master of timing.
Okay, I like that.
Right, he knew that, sometimes you have to wait for the right moment to act.
Right.
Even if you feel very strongly about something.
Right, you can't get too far ahead.
You can't get too far ahead of public opinion.
Or else nobody will follow you.
Exactly.
Right.
And the Emancipation Proclamation is a perfect example of this.
Oh, tell me more.
Right. So he'd been wanting to issue the Emancipation Proclamation for a while.
Right, because that was a big deal, right?
Huge deal.
That freed the slaves in the Confederacy.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But he knew that if he did it too early...
Right. It would backfire.
It would be disastrous.
Yeah.
So he waits for the right moment.
Okay.
And that moment comes after the Battle of Antietam.
Right, which is a Union victory, right?
It's a Union victory, although it's a very costly one.
Right, but it's enough.
But it's enough to give Lincoln the political capital he needs.
The leverage, yeah.
To issue the Emancipation Proclamation and change the course of the war.
Okay, so he's thinking about not just, how do we win this battle?
Right.
He's thinking about how do we win the war?
Right.
But he's also thinking about how do we change the narrative?
Exactly, the moral narrative. Because before the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War, it was about preserving the Union.
Right.
It was a political issue.
But now it's about slavery.
But now, with the Emancipation Proclamation, it becomes a moral crusade.
Oh, wow.
It becomes about right and wrong.
Okay.
And that changes everything.
Okay, I'm seeing why Gaddis loves Lincoln.
Right?
Because he's playing on all these different levels.
Yeah. And, and one more thing I'll say about Lincoln is that, Gaddis talks about how Lincoln understood the importance of what he called friction. Right. And friction is basically all the stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah.
In any plan.
Yeah.
It's the unexpected.
Like the Murphy's Law of grand strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can have the best plan in the world.
Right.
But if you don't account for friction,
right, things are going to go wrong.
It's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And Lincoln, he got that, he understood that you can't control everything.
Right.
That there are always going to be these unexpected events.
Right. The
weather, bad intelligence, human error.
Right.
All these things can throw a wrench in the works.
Right.
And so you have to be prepared to adapt.
Yeah.
You have to be able to think on your feet.
And you have to, I think, also be okay with the fact that, you're not always going to get it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. It's about learning from those mistakes
Okay.
and adapting and moving forward.
Okay, so I feel like we could talk about Lincoln all day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's endlessly fascinating.
But I do want to make sure we have time to get to
Okay.
to some of the other folks that Gaddis brings up.
Sure, yeah, he's got a few more up his sleeve.
He does.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a quick break? And when we come back, we'll dive into some more of these grand strategy giants.
Sound good.
Welcome back, deep divers. Did you grab your thinking caps during the break?
I hope so, because Gaddis is about to throw us some more curveballs.
He is, but you know what I appreciate about him?
What's that?
He doesn't dumb it down for us.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't shy away from the complexity.
No, and I think that's what makes it so rewarding.
Yeah.
Is that he trusts us to keep up with him, to really grapple with these big ideas.
Right, because the reality is the world is messy.
Yeah.
And there aren't always easy answers.
No, and if there were, we wouldn't need grand strategy, would we?
That's a really good point.
We could just, plug it into some algorithm and get the answer.
Huh. Yeah, but humans are involved. And,
Right, with all their quirks and their unpredictability.
And their emotion.
Yeah, and their emotions.
And their baggage.
And their baggage, yeah, and their biases.
Right, and so you have to be able to account for all of that.
Yeah.
When you're trying to make these big decisions. And I think, speaking of big decisions, we were talking about Lincoln before the break.
Yeah. One of the best, if not the best, at navigating those complexities.
He was. But, it made me wonder, he was obviously dealing with, a very specific set of circumstances.
Right. The Civil War.
Right. The Civil War, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
No, it doesn't.
But there are lessons there, right?
Absolutely.
That we can apply even if we're not, leading a nation through a civil war.
For sure.
Like what are some of the takeaways from Lincoln's approach that we can use in our own lives?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones is this idea of understanding the different levels that you have to operate on as a leader.
Okay.
So, Lincoln, yes, he's got this grand vision of preserving the Union and ending slavery.
Right.
But he also knows that he can't just, snap his fingers and make it happen. Right. He has to deal with the day-to-day realities. He has to manage the politics.
Right.
He has to, keep the war effort going.
Right.
And so I think for us, in our own lives, it's about recognizing that, yes, we might have these big, hairy, audacious goals.
Right. We've got our vision board.
These are our vision boards, exactly.
Yeah.
But we also have to be able to, break those down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right. And sometimes those smaller steps,
Yeah.
they don't feel very glamorous.
No, they don't, do they? They can feel very, very mundane.
Yeah, they can feel very,
Like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah. Am I really making a difference? Like, should I be off, conquering the world instead of like doing this spreadsheet?
Right, exactly.
But it's all part of it, right?
It is.
Like you can't get to the big thing without doing the small things.
And sometimes those small things, they're the things that actually make the biggest difference in the long run.
They have a foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might not be glamorous, but they're essential.
So don't neglect the spreadsheets, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, good advice.
Good life advice.
Good life advice, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so Lincoln, master of multiple levels. What else have we got?
Well, another thing that I think we can learn from Lincoln, and this is something that Gaddis talks about a lot in the book, is the importance of storytelling.
Ooh, storytelling.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
Because Lincoln understood that, it's not enough to just be right.
Right.
You have to be able to persuade people.
You have to bring them along.
You have to bring them along, exactly.
Okay.
And one of the ways he did that was through powerful speeches, through using language in a way that resonated with people.
Right. And this was a time when, you didn't have, social media and all these different ways to get your message out.
Right.
It was really about like what you said.
Yeah, the power of the spoken word.
And how you said it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lincoln, he was a master of that.
He was.
Yeah. I mean, Gettysburg Address, for example.
Yeah, come on. It's iconic for a reason.
Short, to the point, incredibly powerful.
Right. And it really did. It changed the way people thought about the war.
It did.
Right.
It reframed the whole conflict, And
it's something that, we still quote today.
Yeah.
Like, it's that powerful.
And that's the thing about a good story.
It sticks with you.
It does.
It has this staying power.
Yeah.
And so I think, for us, even if we're not, giving speeches to thousands of people,
Right.
it's about recognizing that the way we communicate our ideas, the stories we tell, they matter.
They do.
They have the power to persuade, to inspire, to motivate.
And maybe even to go viral.
And maybe even to go viral. Exactly.
All right, so Lincoln, master storyteller. What else have we got?
Well, I think, one more thing I'll say about Lincoln, and then we can move on to some other figures.
Okay.
Is that he understood that, sometimes you have to be willing to bend the rules.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. To achieve a greater good.
I like where this is going.
And I'm not saying that, we should all go out and break the law.
Right. We're not condoning illegal activity. No, not at all. No. But I do think that there are times when, the rules, the norms, the conventions, they might need to be challenged.
Right.
They might need to be bent or even broken.
Okay.
In order to achieve something truly important.
Give me an example.
Okay, well, I mean, the Emancipation Proclamation itself could be seen as an example of this.
Okay.
Because, at the time, it was a very controversial document.
Right, because he was technically exceeding his authority, right?
It was.
He
was, and, there were people who argued that it was unconstitutional.
Right.
But Lincoln, he believed that it was necessary.
Right.
He believed that it was the right thing to do.
To end slavery.
And to save the Union.
Okay.
And so he was willing to, take that risk.
To push the boundary.
To push the boundaries and to challenge the status quo.
So it's about, knowing when to play it by the book and
right.
when to,
to throw the book out the window.
To throw the book out the window.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like it.
But again, with that asterisk, right, use with caution. Right.
This is advanced grand strategy here.
Exactly.
Not for beginners.
Not for beginners.
Okay. All right. So Lincoln, master of bending the rules. What else have we got? Who else does Gaddis want us to learn from?
Well, we've talked a lot about, political leaders, military leaders.
Right.
But Gaddis also wants us to understand that grand strategy, it's not just for, people in positions of power.
Okay.
It's something that we can all apply in our own lives no matter what we do. And so he brings in this really interesting example from the world of art.
Art. Okay.
Yeah, he talks about Michelangelo.
Okay.
A Renaissance artist.
Painter, sculptor, architect.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
Okay.
And he talks about how Michelangelo approached his work with this kind of grand strategic mindset.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So, Michelangelo, he was commissioned to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
Right, one of the most famous works of art in the world.
One of the most famous, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was a massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, thousands of square feet of ceiling.
Right, and it's not like he could just, phone it in.
No.
This was for the Pope.
This was for the Pope, exactly. The stakes were very high. Ah.
Right, and so Gaddis talks about how Michelangelo approached this project with this incredible level of planning and foresight.
Yeah, meticulous attention to detail.
Right.
He thought about everything, from the scaffolding he would need to build.
Right.
To the composition of the paintings.
The colors he would use.
The colors, the light. I mean, every single detail was carefully considered.
Okay, so he's being a hedgehog here, right? He's got...
Very hedgehog, yeah, in the sense of he's got this clear vision.
He knows what he wants.
He knows what he wants, and he's not afraid to put in the hard work to make it happen.
Right.
But he's also being a fox in the sense that he's constantly adapting.
Okay.
He's learning as he goes.
Right, he's experimenting with new techniques.
Exactly, because, painting a ceiling like that.
Yeah, it had never been done before.
Yeah, it had never been done before on that scale, and so he's having to invent new ways of doing things.
Right, he's having to innovate.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got the hedgehog vision.
Right.
He's got the fox adaptability.
He's got it all. He's Michelangelo.
Okay, so, but what's the takeaway for us?
Well, I think the takeaway is that, even the most daunting tasks can be accomplished.
If you break them down.
Exactly, if you plan carefully.
And if you're not afraid to adapt and adjust as you go.
And to learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because even Michelangelo, he wasn't perfect.
Right.
Mistakes, but he learned from them.
And he kept going.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
And he created a masterpiece.
So what you're saying is there's hope for all of us.
Even if we're not Michelangelo.
Even if we're not Michelangelo.
Okay, that's good to know.
There's a little bit of Michelangelo in all of us.
I like it.
There you go.
I like it a lot.
All right.
Well, this has been fantastic.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of on grand strategy.
Oh, we've barely even opened the book.
I know.
But hopefully this has given our listeners a taste.
A little taste, yeah.
A little taste of what Gaddis has to offer.
And hopefully inspired them to pick up a copy.
Absolutely.
And to continue this exploration of grand strategy.
Because it's a journey, it's not a destination.
It is a journey, yeah.
Yeah,
And one that I think, we can all benefit from.
for sure.
So thank you to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.
See you then.
Bye, everybody.